I've been asked about the recording equipment I use for the various events that I run. I remember starting out with a camera at the back of a room, editing in post or after the event, and trying to clean up the audio. Nowadays I use a combination of a webcam, wireless mic and HDMI capture device to splice presentation feeds into the recording in real time, and have a single video ready to upload as soon as the talk is done. Join me and find out how it's set up, what software I use, and how to create some simple images to make your videos pop. So we've got a number of components here. We've got the webcam, which is going to record the video feed, and then over here we've got an HDMI splitter. So that's going to take the HDMI out from the presenter's laptop, and it's going to split it to go to the projector still, and then also to our laptop for recording. We've got a couple of small units here, so the Rode Goes are nice and small, compact. They even feature a built-in microphone, so I love these. They have a built-in battery, so you can't replace the battery, but they last at least. I've used them now for 3 meetups, and they're only half empty. So I've charged them before starting here. The other components we have is the Scarlett 2i2. So this has 2 inputs at the front, and at the back we've got the USB out. So we're going to use that. We're going to use that to get the audio from the mic into the laptop. And the other component we have is this one here. So I've covered them all up with gaffer tape just so that when I'm carrying them around and they're in my bag rolling around, they don't get scratched or damaged. But essentially this takes HDMI in and it exposes it as a USB-C. So we can plug this in so that OBS can get the video feed from the projector or from the presenter's laptop. So that will connect to the HDMI splitter. We've got our audio coming in here through the essentially a lavalier microphone that will stick on the presenter, and the other end will then we'll plug this in here, and I'm just going to use a little bit of blue tack to hold this on top. I like to make sure things don't roll around when I'm using them, so that'll stick on the top there. And this unit is actually completely USB powered. So if we plug this in now, just get this USB converter, plug it into the USB-C. So we'll see the power coming on here now. If I press and hold that button down, we've now got the Rode Go on, and we press and hold this one, and this is now the transmitter is on. And you can see when I talk into the microphone, it's currently going red around the volume control there. So we're definitely clipping. So one of the things that you can do on these devices is on the receiver, there's a little volume in. You can also see a chart there, a bar telling you how much is coming in. So it's not clipping here, but it's definitely clipping when we get it into this point here. So that was too loud. We'll bring that down a bit, and now we're going to stay within the green range. So that's looking good there, and we're not clipping here. If we were clipping on the receiver, there's a little button underneath there to change the decibel input, so that'll go down to bottom, and now you can see there's nothing coming through on the Scarlett at all, medium and high. So I think we're a good setting there. This is also a really good way to check while you're setting up to make sure that the audio is getting through before we connect it to the laptop. We want to make sure that once it's connected to the laptop, any issues of OBS not getting the audio is something to do with the laptop interface as opposed to anything outside of it. So that's the audio set up and coming in. I'll just move these out of the way. So then we want to take our HDMI cable. So because I'm just taking an output from my other laptop here, the one that I'm recording this on, I didn't want to have to unplug and plug monitors back in halfway through. So this is already set up. We're getting the output from my center monitor here. The output is, or rather the input from my other laptop, output going to the center monitor, and then we're going to take the second output. So this is the one that we would run to the back of the room or wherever our recording rig is, and we plug that into this device here. So that's our HDMI in, and then we grab our USB-C to USB-C cable. Again, this is totally powered over USB-C, so this plugs in. Great. So that's red at the moment. That should, I think, turn a different color when it's getting a resolution it likes. My monitor just flickered, so the HDMI splitter has detected that something's come along. So we've got our video camera now, we've got our audio input, and we've got our projected presentation input. So let's jump over and have a look at OBS on the recording laptop now. So what I generally like to do is, because scenes and sources all have to have unique names, it can get a bit confusing when you've got a source called webcam and you've got a scene called webcam. So I usually namespace them a little, and I also create a scene per input. The reason for this is that you can then modify things like the refresh rates of cameras or the audio of the volume of audio inputs in one place, and then that gets applied to every other scene that uses those inputs. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to create these scenes and I'm going to call them components, because many components will make one scene in the future. So this component is going to be the webcam. And in the webcam, I'm going to add a source. It's going to be a video capture device. And this here is going to be source webcam. Again, they can't have the same name. And then I'm going to choose the webcam here. So now we've got the input from the camera over here. Okay, and then I'm just going to drag this and I'm going to make that full size. So I am going to be stretching and scaling this slightly, but at the moment that doesn't bother me too much. Now that I have another scene, I'm just going to delete this one because I like to keep things clean. So we've got our component webcam, and now we want another component. This is going to be the presentation. So in here, let's add in another video capture device. This is going to be the source. Let's call it HDMI. And the device here, this is the Avermedia USB device. That's this one here. So if I click on that, it's outside of the resolution range. So I'm just going to jump over to my presentation laptop, and I'm going to change the resolution of that screen. So at the moment it's 1680 by 1050. I'm going to drop that down to 1280 by 1024. There we go. So now we've got, I'm going to keep those changes. So now we've got the presentation coming through here. Now, in an ideal world, this would actually be a 10:9 or a 16:9 or a 16:10 resolution. We've actually got a 5:4 resolution here, but that's okay. For the main issue I've got at this point is because of my multi-display setup, I can't get a 1920 by 1080 into here. This should support 1980 by 1080, 1920 by 1080, and in most situations where you're recording a meetup, that's going to be what you're getting at. So let's continue. So we've got our stream coming in here now. You can see here's my other computer. That's the display settings that I just changed, and in the background I have my presentation that I would want to show. So this is coming through fine. Okay, and then I'm going to stretch this to be the full size as well. And now I want to have a component which is the audio. And in here I'm going to add an audio input, and this is going to be a source audio, and it's going to come from our Scarlett 2i2. It's our USB device. And now you can hear, if I just cover this over, then the, in fact if I mute it, is there a mute button on this thing? Turn it off. So now the input here has gone down to 0. It's not picking up any audio whatsoever. If I turn it back on again, so this is now showing that the audio that's coming through there, I'm now holding it really close to my mouth, so it's peaking, and I'm holding it a bit further away. I'll just clip that onto my t-shirt here so that we can see what it looks like there. So you can see it's clipping a little bit into the yellow, but that's fine. We're not going red at this point. So now we've got our audio, and we've got our webcam and our presentation. At this point here, we're going to start creating new scenes. So we might have a scene which is going to be the webcam. So in this case, this is only going to show, so we're now only putting in scenes here. So we're going to pull in the webcam scene, and we're also going to pull in the audio scene. So we want webcam and audio. Now, the reason this is useful is that, say for example, this was clipping. Let's create another scene. Screen, Well, let's keep it consistent. Let's call this presentation. And in here, we can now come in and we can copy the audio and we can paste it in. And then we can come in and add a new scene. And we're going to put the presentation in. So now, say for example, the audio is clipping. Let me just turn this up a bit so it does clip. So we're now getting clipping, and normally we would fix it at the Scarlett 2i2. But let's say we wanted to change the audio here. Within the scene presentation here, I could bring this down so it stops clipping. But then as soon as I turn over to the webcam view, the audio would go straight back up. But because I'm editing the same audio source, it gets changed in one place. This component audio is a reference to this component audio, so they're actually pointing the same thing. If I added separately, if we take this out, if I add a new audio input source, and we just call it whatever for default's sake. So this one here is now clipping, and as soon as we go to the webcam view, you can see it's not clipping. And then if you go back to the scene here, then it starts clipping again, which means that when we're recording this, you're going to get changing audio levels, which is not ideal. So let's just delete that again. And we'll grab this audio component and paste it. So I'm just using Control-C, Control-V, Command-C, Command-V to copy and paste to that point. And now we want another one where we want a scene with Prezzo and webcam inset. So here we'll take the audio and the presentation. And we're also going to take the webcam. But the webcam we're going to change to the inset at the top here. And in fact, we might also bring this down slightly. Something like that. So now we have three scenes. We've got our presentation, the webcam, and the presentation with the video inset. So the next thing I want to show you is what I do to create the frame. So the video you're looking at the moment, you've got on this side here my logo and my name. Down at the bottom here are a couple of links. Every now and then up here I'll put some text to give you hints of where to skip to if you're getting bored, that kind of thing. For the Identity and Security meetup in Melbourne tomorrow, I haven't created those assets yet, so let's go ahead and create those now. So I'm going to start with GIMP. So GIMP is a raster graphics editor. I'm going to create a new document of 1920 by 1080. So this is going to be the frame that we set this in. From another document, I'm going to just grab this component here. So this is the branding that we have for the Identity and Security meetup. The first thing I want to do is clean up let me just save that as a new layer. To new layer, and then I want to come in and clean up the edges. So we don't need that grey. We'll get rid of the text. In fact, we don't need the Melbourne either. I'll bring that into the top, and then we'll crop that. Over this layer now, we'll move down, let's move into the top. So that's the start of our view. Now the main pages that we have on Meetup, the images that we have there have a background square. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to create a new layer, put that in there, and we're going to fill that with the colour. This one here. On this layer here now, we want to make it 1080 tall. I'm going to fill it with white. Okay, so we've got something here that looks a little like the Melbourne Identity Security brand. So I'm going to come in here now. I'm going to merge all visible layers. So we now have one here, and I'm going to call that main. And then I want to duplicate this layer and hide that one. I'm going to call this one single. So within single, we want an area of transparency, and the video is going to sit behind it. And that area is going to be 1920 by 1080. I'm going to resize that with a shift key, and then this one with a shift key. So I'm going to put it just approximately there. So this is still going to show up. If I hit delete now, then we get our transparency. So this is where we can put the video. And before we do anything else, I'm going to remove the selection, and then we're going to come to tools, filters rather, and we're going to add a shadow, a drop shadow, and we're going to set it to 0, offset, blur radius of 10, and we're going to set it to a hard black with full opacity, double opacity in fact. So now we've got this drop shadow on the inside, which will just give us a bit of a depth. So the video will sit behind it, because this is going to be saved as a PNG. The gradient will sit on top of the video and look like it's sitting behind the card. So that's single. And now I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to call this one double. And as you can guess, this one is going to have another. In fact, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to reset the filter on this one. I'm going to do a few of these. I want to get rid of the drop shadow. I need to duplicate this first. Let's duplicate one. There it is. Alright, let's come back in here, and we're just going to repeat the drop shadow on here. Then we're going to come into single. And this one's going to be called double. So we've got the original here. We also want to have another one. So I'm going to select an area. I'm going to make it 192 by 108, so same aspect ratio, and then I'm going to resize it down into this area here, and then bring it down. So I'm always resizing rather than moving, just in case I accidentally deselect things. And here now we have the frame where we'll have the video. So we'll be able to have the presentation there and the video in the foreground. So the first thing I'll do here is I'll hit delete. So we've now got another transparency. Now I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to grow this by, let's say, 5 pixels. Let's grow it by another 5. Okay, so in fact I should have done that before. I'm going to go into fill mode here, and I'm going to change this area here. So we've now got completely white. Then we'll shrink by 10, and we'll delete that. So now we have a frame around here, and just to clean this up a little, I'm going to come in and zoom in a little. So up to this point here, where this red line is there, the white in this area, I actually want to be red. So now I'll come in and I'll fill that in that color. So now we have our double frame, and then we can come in with the filters again, repeat the drop shadow. And we have a frame that can sit over the inset video and the main thing there. So I'm just going to hit save on this now. OBS frames, and then I'll export this one as OBS double.png, and this one as OBS single.png. Alright, and that's all we need from GIMP. So let's jump into OBS, and we have a new scene collection here called ISM Melbourne. So we'll start from this point here. This time what we want to do is create a template for single view, and we want to create a template for a double view. Into the template for single view, we're going to add an image. This is going to be image template single, and we'll grab the single image here, and then in double we'll add an image double. We'll grab our double image. So now we've got our single and our double view. Now similarly we're going to want to add a component camera, and in here we'll add a video capture device, and we'll grab this camera here, and then we can rename this scene to camera. So in here we want a scene with the camera, a scene of single, and we also need the audio, and in here we're going to use, I'm just going to call it that, we're going to be using our USB audio. So we can see this is not actually moving at the moment because the audio device has been captured by my screen recorder, which is recording what I'm doing at the moment. But we would in template single, in scene cam here, we would also add the other scene, which is the audio component. And now we can come in and edit the camera again to be in this area here. That's nice. Then we can duplicate this and call it scene desktop. We want a new component, desktop, and we're going to add in there a video capture device. Actually, I think it's a screen capture device. Just go with a KDE, so this is what I'm editing this current video in KDE Enliven. So we'll put that in there. So we'll want that to be full size. I don't know whether it matters to center it at this point here, but now we can duplicate our scene cam to scene desktop. Oh, we did that already. So we come in here now and we add the scene component desktop. We get rid of component cam. Bring the template to the top. Here we'll bring the template to the top, not that it matters because audio is invisible anyway. And the desktop we want to resize. Bring that in there, down to there. and center it. And now we have two views here. We could duplicate this one and do desktop plus cam. So in this case, we want to remove the single template from here and add in the double, which has gone to the top. So now we can see the desktop here, but it's also bleeding through, but that's fine because we're going to take the camera component and put that in here, and we'll just resize that to fit. Bring that down underneath to fit into this area. And then we'll duplicate this one and call it cam plus desktop. So I'll come in here and I'll move the cam up to there and resize that. And then I'll bring the desktop down to there, resize that. And now because the desktop's underneath, I just need to bring that up above the camera and that'll pop through. Now the other thing is that because the desktop itself doesn't fill the full frame, what we need to do at this point here is just make sure that it's blacked out behind there. So we can come in here and we can add a color source. And I'm just going to call this black 16:9. So the reason why I'm giving it the width and height is because I'll be able to scale this afterwards, but it'll always maintain aspect ratio. So I'll just make it 1920 by 1080. We're going to change it to black. And then I can resize that down in here and move that right to the bottom. Actually no, it needs to be above the camera. There we go. So now we've blacked that out, and we could even come in here, copy that and paste it into this version here, put it underneath the cam, so that if we ever had a camera that was a different aspect ratio, then that would also receive the black treatment around there without it showing the desktop in the background. And that's it. We now have 4 scenes. We've got the main camera view, we've got the desktop view, got the desktop with a camera inset, and we've got the camera with a desktop inset. Now that you know the equipment and software I use to record talks at events, you have a starting point to get you going. I've included a full shopping list in the description, but don't let a lack of equipment stop you. OBS is free and open source, and you can get started with a laptop camera and wired mic. Adding presentation captures certainly makes it easier for watchers to read text, especially coding demos, but if you don't manage that first time, you're still sharing someone's talk with more people than you can fit in the room. I'd love to hear how you go, so leave me a comment, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.